Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Ramos Law Difference Makers podcast. I'm Dr. Jim Hoven, and I get to host this incredible show where we talk to people who are making a difference, and today is no exception. Today, I have one of our incredible paralegals. I have Esmeralda Vidal with me today, and she is a rock star's rock star. She handles our Arizona team, and they came all the way out here to visit with us, so the conversation that we get to have is live and in person. We haven't been able to do that for a while, right?
Yes, we have not.
And so now I'm super excited because we're going to talk about essentially kind of the heart of service. I know that's really what you're into. So before we get into it, Esmeralda, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I know you and I have had the chance to visit in person, right? When I've come down, when you trained here originally, when you first started working, and when I've been down into the office and just the chance of talking. And I will tell you, I have seen so much growth in you as a, not only as a paralegal, but as a person. Because when you came to us, you didn't have a lot of law experience with respect to the paralegal side, right? You came from a whole different side. Can you kind of explain your story a little bit?
Yes. So I originally started with another firm, and I started as a receptionist. I did some not case management, but a little bit of the back end of the case management, and with Ramos Law was my first time actually participating in a paralegal role, actually handling the case from beginning to end. So it's been a great experience, a lot of things that I've learned.
And you know what, you're a young woman. It's not like you've had 30 years of work experience.
Of course.
When it comes to what you like about being a paralegal, what you love about your job, what is the biggest thing that you would say moves you about what you do every day?
To me, it's really being able to help somebody that's in a position where they've never been, because a lot of the clients that we do have, it's their first accident or second accident or first real experience with a law office that truly cares for them. And that to me is very important, because a lot of the times they've been led by somebody that didn't know what they were doing, or didn't see the purpose behind it, and didn't see that there was a real person struggling there. So I think that's one of the things that is very important to me, being able to speak to people and explain anything that they need to, so they don't feel like they're alone in a process.
And that is a huge point, because it can be lonely if you've gone through, if you've gone through an accident or trauma that you've never had that happen before. You don't know what you don't know, right? And so having an ally on your team and someone to help you walk through that process, it's important. I'm interested, before we dive into that, when you were growing up, were you always that person that was looking to help people as a little girl or a young woman, or were you someone who was a little more introverted and shy?
I think I've always been very introverted. That's just how I am. But whenever there was an opportunity that arose where I was able to help someone, I'd do it without it thinking about it.
And are you part of a big family or more of a smaller family?
So I am part of a big family. My family's very family oriented, which I think that's where a lot of my how I am really came about. One of the things that I mentioned before is whenever I had the opportunity to help somebody, I would. And one way that started, my mom always thought it was very important for me to learn how to speak Spanish, especially because the Hispanic community has grown so much that it was easier for me, if somebody didn't know how to speak English, for me to translate to them easily.
So did you do that a lot?
Yes, I did that a lot.
A lot of translating. Okay.
A lot.
When did that start? How old were you when you learned English and Spanish enough to be an effective translator?
I think it started since I was probably 8 years old, since I started going to school and being able to learn English.
Was English your first or second language?
It was my second language.
Second language.
Yes.
That's so cool. And, I've seen that so often where when I was treating patients, I would have Spanish-speaking patients. And, I really thought it was a sign of respect if I could try to learn Spanish. And my Spanish is certainly not fluent. But, I plink around with it and this and that. And I would know that a lot of the patients would come in with their young children who were, 8 to 14, and they would act as that go-between to make sure that I got the information I needed to give great care. Is that a big part of the Latino Hispanic community? Is the kids playing that vital role, or what do you see in there?
I don't think it's necessarily that it's automatically the kid playing that role, but usually a lot of the times when parents don't know the language, their kids are getting it to learn in school while the parent is working. Obviously, it becomes harder for them to learn it themselves.
For sure.
So it's easier for them to have somebody that can translate. Of course, it puts a little bit of pressure on the kid, but to me, it personally helped me learn how to speak English better, be able to speak Spanish and go between both languages at the same time. And not only that, but I actually enjoyed being able to help people do so.
So interesting, now you get to use that skill a lot, right? We have
Yes.
several Spanish speaking clients, and I can only imagine if what happens, so they're involved in an accident, it's not their fault, and they're injured. They don't know what to do. They don't know how to work through the system. It's never happened to them before. And most of the people around them don't speak the same language that they speak. What role do you see your ability to speak Spanish as a paralegal being in those kinds of cases? And how do you help people after an accident because specifically you speak Spanish?
I think it's a lot easier for me to be able to communicate because, as you mentioned, where you see your clients going in, they don't have the opportunity to be able to speak to a doctor in their own language. And sometimes it's difficult for them to even get diagnosed properly. And the same thing with an attorney to translate exactly what happened in the accident, how it's affecting their life. It's a huge help to be able to speak to somebody in a way that they understand, in a way that they feel comfortable. I've read somewhere the language to your soul is basically your first language, and that's how it that's something that stood out to me a lot because it's true. Sometimes when you say something in one language, it doesn't necessarily translate in another.
Absolutely. And to be able to, I think that's the nuance, right, in communication, where if we're talking about something, for example, I might say, hey, remember when da-da-da-da-da? And that says remember when, but if I leave off those first two letters,
Of course.
unless you're really skilled with that, you're not going to pick that nuance up. And so for someone who is even learning English, imagine they're talking to doctors, they're talking to insurance companies, they're talking to all these people, including their legal team. If they don't have someone that can take remember and member and move them together, because the term member in English is a member of a society or a group, remember is different. But when I say, hey, remember that time? And so I think when you can take that as someone who's completely bilingual and you can help them get one way to another, that's an incredibly valuable gift that they receive.
Yes.
And so when you're working with clients, do you feel a sense of connection to them? Do you end up getting this personal, like it gets kind of personal to take care of them? Or is it something where you find like, hey, if I just kind of keep it more on the business side, I'm able to help them better? How do you navigate and operate?
Could you repeat that for me? Like, what do you mean?
So there are some people that be like, you know what, I don't want you to think of me that we're too friendly because I want you to know I'm handling your business. There are other people that say, no, the closer that we get, that I feel connected to your spirit, to my spirit, I'm going to serve you better in a business side. And neither way is, there's not a right or wrong way, but your personality, I'm interested to see how you connect with the clients.
I think I shoot to be somewhere in between where they feel comfortable enough to tell me to confide in me, but also in a manner where it's still very professional and they understand that we're representing them for a case that they were involved in.
And that makes good sense to me because you want that person to understand that you are professional, but at the same time that you care. I've seen it so many times in here as where people, when they get done, is they say, you guys treated me like family. And I know that's really cliche, but it's true that when someone has that experience, that the people around them that were really watching out for their best interests were indeed watching out for their best interests because they care for them as a person and they care for the result that they got for them. And I hear you saying that that's where you like to go, is right down that center lane.
And that's how if one of my family members were to get into an auto accident, I'd want anybody who were to help them out with the process to treat them the same exact way that we are treating our clients. I wouldn't treat them any other way.
That's so fun. That is so fun. I'm interested in going kind of back to your family. You have big family. Does that mean
Yes.
lots of siblings, or lots of siblings and lots of cousins and aunts and uncles?
I am the youngest of four, and I have lots of cousins, lots of uncles as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you guys still get together a lot? Is it everybody kind of geographically close together?
Yes, actually, 90% of my family lives in Arizona, so we're really close together. As I mentioned, like my family's super family oriented. Every holiday, every birthday, everyone gets together, and if one person's missing, everybody notices.
Okay, so let me ask you this. How was COVID as far as affecting your family dynamics, you guys being together and you guys coming together?
It was a little bit difficult, especially for like the older members in our family, how we weren't able to see them since they were more at high risk. My grandmother being the oldest member of our family, I went about 9 months without seeing her through.
Wow. And how's she now?
She's doing great.
She is,
yeah.
and you guys are able to kind of reconnect.
Yeah, we're able to see her now.
Isn't that something? I know that we had that happen in families, obviously, around the world, but in our work family, we couldn't see each other as much. People were working so much more from home, and as we're transitioning back, there's an energy, right, to when we're together. People
Yes.
need to be together. We need to be in that human spirit, and technology is cool, and it's great to be able to get things done and be productive because of all the stuff around us, but there's nothing like
The
sitting
human
like
touch,
we are
yeah.
now, right? Big hugs and high fives and all that
Yes.
stuff. So you guys saw that in your family too?
Oh, of course.
Yeah. What about, if we were talking about hobbies, what are the things that you love to do most outside of work that make you you?
I think for the most part, I love to cook. I like to learn.
Okay, cook. Tell me about cooking. What do you like to cook?
I am Mexican. My favorite things to cook are Mexican. I'm trying to expand more into learning how to cook other kinds of meals. I don't think I'm a very good cook, but I do love the process of watching something. Like, I love to have my food look beautiful in order for me to want to eat it.
Really? Okay,
Yes.
give me an example of that. Like, do you mean it has to be for
Plated
example,
a
would you make
certain way,
okay.
or the way that it lays on the plate, or just the way that it looks.
What
Even
about a
though-
hamburger? Do you like? Would you want the hamburger to be a certain way and have the bun like this, or only certain foods? Like, no, I want some with a lot of garnish and a lot of, I want it to have a lot of style. I don't really do the burger, the simple food. What do you mean like that?
So let's say, for example, when you're serving somebody's plate, I like to separate everything out, make sure that nothing's touching. That's just the main thing. So everything's divided evenly, and like you can look at a plate and know where everything's at. And just to make, when you look at something, you really want to eat it. That's what I want everybody to feel when they see my food, and I'm trying to get to the point where it tastes as beautiful as it looks.
Okay, so Mexican food is your favorite genre.
Yes.
What's your favorite dish that you would like to cook that meets all those criteria? It's the beauty, it's the palate, it's the presentation. Do you have a favorite? Like when you make it,
Yes.
that's your pride and joy?
Ceviche. I love
Ooh,
shrimp ceviche.
nice.
Probably my favorite. Not a big fan of the making process because it does take a little bit longer, but I love the way it looks, the way that it tastes.
And is that what you
Favorite
bring
food.
to every family party then?
I actually don't make it that often because my family loves cooking seafood, and other people in my family are a lot better at it, so they usually do.
Okay. So with what I hear you say on cooking, you're all about organization and
Yes.
presentation. How have you seen that play out in your work life? Do you have those same kind of characteristics in what you do and how you do it, as far as when you manage cases, when you communicate? Is there that same, I want it to be a certain way, I want it to look beautiful and organized, or is that different?
Yes, I try to be as organized as I can to make everything look as neat and easy for everybody else to read, not only myself. So definitely something that translates into my work.
That's fun. And what about client communication? When you're talking to people, have you noticed that there's a certain way that you like to get the message across? Because again, we're talking about stuff that people don't know the term subrogation. They don't know the term med pay or uninsured motorist. How do you go about explaining to simplify things to your clients?
I usually start off with letting them know what's going on and making sure that they understand every word that I'm using in order to explain the process to them. I like to be very thorough, and if anybody ever has any questions, I'd like for them to ask me immediately. I make sure that there's never anything that goes unanswered, because I know personally for me, it's I'm a little bit introverted, so sometimes I don't speak out. And when I notice that some of my clients are like that, I make sure that I pay a little bit more attention to them so they don't ever feel like they're asking too much or they're being left out of the process just because they don't understand something.
I see. And have you grown? It's interesting when someone says they're introverted. In our roles, right? There's a time to be introverted, but there's sometimes that you can't be.
Yes.
Has this helped you, your role as a paralegal? Has it helped you to kind of come out of your shell and be able to grow in that way? And if so, how?
Definitely. This is definitely something that's not in my comfort zone.
Like doing a podcast?
Yes. It is not in my comfort zone at all. But I think it's helpful to have people around you that are very supportive and very loving and will show you the way, how you mentioned.
Oh, that's awesome.
I have gotten out of my shell, but I think it's mostly because of the people around me that have made it so easy for me to express myself.
Do you have a favorite story of a mentor or a teacher, someone that helped you to develop as you've grown? Because again, you're so young and you know, I mean, you're a baby, right?
Yeah.
Early 20s, just kind of getting your life going. And here you are, like you're changing people's lives going through what you go through every day with them. Did you have examples of leadership, of mentorship, and some of the lessons you learned to get you here?
I think all through my life, I've been very lucky to have amazing people all around me. One of the biggest role models in my life has always been my older sister. She's only 6 years older than me. I basically see her as a second mother because she's always been so close to my life. And she's very extroverted, and just making it comfortable to be yourself, and it doesn't matter who you're around, to put yourself out there and make sure that you are able to get the opportunities, not because you're too scared to.
That's amazing. So give us an example, because I know there's a lot of people listening to this that are going to go, I can relate to that, right? Or I remember when I was like that. Can you give an example of where your sister was like, hey sis, come on, you can do this, you got this, and helped you move through that, or where you saw her do that?
I think it's always been a perspective where I've had the opportunity to see her do it. And I've always been more of a mindset of, if they can do it, so can I. And I think that's what's really helpful, to see somebody be in the same position where you're completely new to this country and she's going out there and getting in, doing it without the help of anybody else, and having her support and all of my family support, everybody around me. It's so easy for me to follow in her footsteps as well.
Oh, that's nice. Does she know that? Have you told her that?
Yes.
So cool. So when you say new to the country, are you guys first gen?
Yes, we are first generation.
Oh, that's so cool. And so what's your sister doing now? We'll give her a big shout out. Hi, sis.
Hello. She is a psychologist.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow. So she's doing critical work, making
Yes.
sure people's mental health is...
She works mostly with children.
She does?
Yes.
Wow. And so when you guys talk, what do you talk about? You're with your sister. She's your second mom. Do you talk about, like, especially she's a psychologist, right? So she understands how the mind works. Do you guys spend a lot of time visiting about certain things, certain topics?
Not really. I like to talk to her. I'm very open about everything. We just discuss normal day-to-day things. And if I ever have a question on anything, she's 90% of the time my first go-to.
That's where she goes. That's
Yes.
super, man. What a great place of honor. Like, I know that when you put your faith in someone that they're going to be wise counsel or they're going to be a great ear, that's an honor. And I'm sure that she doesn't take that lightly. Have you had a chance in your life to be that person for someone? Because typically there's kind of a pay it forward in that, right? Like, man, you learned that. And so now all of a sudden you kind of gravitate and attract that into your life. Is there a thought process where someone kind of leans on you at this point?
Not yet. I'm not there yet, unfortunately.
But I will tell you, you may not be there the way that you think and the way we were just talking about, but from a day-to-day perspective, our clients see you that way.
Thank you. That really means a lot.
And, you know, we've had some great comments about you because, as you know, with me doing all the operations, I always check in with all of our team on client connection. And we've had some really nice comments and compliments about how you have taken care of people and how you've made a difference in their lives. Is that something that you focus on when you're having that experience? Because I know that you've said you want to help people, that's really important, that your mission kind of, you didn't use that word, but where you want to go is when you have an opportunity to help. Are you thinking of that consciously?
Yes.
Because again, you do get all these compliments from folks. Tell me how you go about your mindset of prepping to be the best that you can be for your clients.
To me, it's really putting them first throughout the whole process. They're the only thing that I'm really thinking about. It's not just looking at a case and working something through. It's remembering the fact that somebody's going through this in real life. And it's horrible to me when somebody just says, I'm sorry for the process that you're going through. And they don't really get to experience the fact that you truly care about them and that you wish that you could get them out of the situation as soon as possible. And that's exactly what I try to do, to help them out the best that I can, the fastest that I can. And
that is so amazing because you're filling in a gap for them and they sense it. I will tell you, keep doing that because they really get it. When it comes to you learning here, again, you came here with a very minimal background on what you're doing right now. Like you said, you had some admin back end side of the case stuff, but this was all new. What role has leadership and mentorship played in your ability to learn faster? And the reason I'm asking this question is for people that are listening right now. I think it's important that they realize that there are mentors and teachers all around us, right? Yes. Sometimes it's nature is a great mentor. Sometimes it's a TV show. Sometimes it's someone you listen to. It's someone you know, like your sister. In the workplace, I really want people to understand what connects them to greatness in their own way. And so as you're getting great, what role has that played for you where you have your questions answered and your go-tos, and what importance has that played for you? So example, if you look at what Megan has done, when you look at what Ashley has done for you, what role has that played in you becoming the paralegal that you are?
Oh, I think it's played so much of an important role. They have helped me become who I am today, and without them, I wouldn't be here. And I'd love to share that same experience with somebody else. Megan is the sweetest, so is Ashley, one of the sweetest people I've ever met, always willing to help, and you can feel her energy over the phone through anything. She's always happy. She's like a big mama bear.
That's awesome. And what about the technical side? So we've got the emotional side, and I think that's the part that gets lost, by the way, just for the record. It's easy sometimes to say, okay, Ez, here's what we do. We have this checklist, and you go down the checklist and you do this, and it's harder for some people in the training process as great trainers to give that emotional connection, that what we would call EQ, which is emotional intelligence, as opposed to IQ, which is your intellectual intelligence. So you talked about the emotional connection with Megan and Ashley, with your team leads. What about with technical stuff? What's the best way that you've found? And again, I think other people can benefit from this. How's a great way for you to learn? Is it by someone telling you something? Is it by you being able to do it, by this connection? What are the skill sets required to learn your job at a high level?
To me, personally, it's easier for me to learn by example and doing it myself, actually executing it. But definitely to see how somebody else handles a situation and to check if that is something that I would be able to do, or I'm not sure.
Yeah. And what about questions? How important are questions for you in the learning process? In other words, asking as opposed to being told. Because I know some people, for me, I'm a big question guy. That's why I love doing podcasts, because all I do is I get asked questions. But for me, learning also, if I want to learn about you, I'm going to ask questions. But when I'm learning something, I want to ask questions. Is this what you mean? Is this what you need? When I'm training someone, it's questions where I'm saying, do you get it? Okay, now show me this. Okay, is there anything else you need? So I try to use questions on the learning side and on the teaching side. What about questions for you? Are there any questions you love to ask, or how do questions fit into your learning style?
I usually like to look at everything before I ask something, because I like to I'm very try to figure things out on my own before I ask something. And when I ask something, I want to have a solid answer to it. I want to make sure that I'm understanding it fully. So I don't want to ask a question too that I'm going to have to ask a secondary one.
Oh,
So,
that's cool.
yeah.
Okay. So you like to get the information, try to absorb it,
Yes.
figure out where the next steps are before,
Yes.
and then ask one question that solves a couple.
Yes.
I love that. Well, how does that apply outside of work? Do you use that same kind of process? Like, is that who you
Yes.
are in your cooking or in your reading or anything else you love to do? Is it that same kind of thing, or do you approach that differently?
No, I feel like I approach it the same exact way. I like to approach everything from my perspective first to make sure that I understand it. And as I mentioned, just to make sure that I'm avoiding secondary questions that aren't going to fully answer the first one.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What do you like to do outside of work besides cooking? We talked about cooking being one love. What are other things that you really, really, really enjoy?
I'm a big movie fanatic, which I shouldn't be, but
I'm looking at Gabe right now, our producer. The guy is sitting over there behind the glass. He's nodding his head because he watches, you don't know this maybe yet, he watches a movie basically every day. He is the movie guy. So now,
yes.
Remember, Gabe's in here. What is your favorite movie?
Favorite movie. There's so many.
Okay, favorite series, favorite franchise, if you like a franchise.
I have more of a favorite show than a favorite movie.
Okay, favorite show.
Favorite show, The Office.
The
hands
Office.
down.
So you're a comedy person.
Yes.
Okay.
Not so much. I'm more of a dry comedy person.
That's fun. And so do you watch reruns of it all the time?
Yes. I love to play movies in the background while I'm doing something, whether I'm cleaning something up, cooking, or just playing it. So I'm not a big music person.
Okay.
So I'll usually just play movies in the background, and when something interesting comes on, I actually sit down and watch it. But other than that, I just have it playing in the background.
So you like the background noise?
Yes.
Excellent. Anything else that you really, really love besides having the show, the movies, and cooking? Are those your two big ones?
Those are my two big ones.
I love it. I love it. What have you learned most so far since working at Ramos Law? Biggest lesson, biggest takeaway so far?
Love what you do.
Love what you do.
I think one of the reasons that our company has grown so much and has such beautiful people is that everybody loves what they do, loves working together. And I think that's one of the most important things. I've never seen an environment where everybody's so close together, so loving, with absolutely no conflict. And it's beautiful to me.
That is so cool. What a compliment. Thank you for that. Because as you know, culture for us, the way that we try to do what we do, it's not just about the how of the mechanics of being a great legal team. It's about the how of living the lifestyle of taking care of each other. So to hear that means a lot to you is super, super cool. Well, how has your visit been to Denver so far? I'm interested in hearing about that. Let's talk about that.
It's actually been beautiful. I'm originally from Phoenix, so being in Denver, it's a little bit cooler. And when I first checked the weather, I looked at it and I was like, wow, great. This is our winter, which I'm not a big fan of the cold, but it's been beautiful. The scenery. I love the way that you guys have so many hills, so many mountains. It's not completely flat like Arizona. So that's great.
And you know, when we go to Arizona, right, when we come to visit with people and train together and do all that kind of stuff, the thing I love about Arizona is the sunsets are so dynamic because you've got the dust in the air, and then the way that the cactus come right out of the ground. To me, that's such a uniqueness. So I could see where if you're coming from that to here, how that would be cool. But I'm telling you, when you're going from here to there, just as cool, just as beautiful, just as amazing. So if I were to, we'll finish with this. If I were to ask you one piece of advice that you've ever been given or that you've learned that has meant more to you than any other, is there one so far? If so, what is it? What is that one piece of counsel, guidance, or advice that you have learned that has helped you that you might share with our listeners?
I think it would be love what you do and be confident in the choices that you make in life.
Okay. Tell me about that one. Tell me about it, because you explained the love what you do really well.
Yes.
The confidence in the choices that you make in life. Tell me a little bit more about that.
I think it's very important to know yourself in every decision that you make. And if you are 100% behind that decision, then go for it. If that is what's at the end of the day going to make you happy, going to make you a better person, then be confident in the choices that you make in life.
I love that. And I will tell you, I've got a little bit more life on me than you do.
Yes.
That when you take that approach, here's the beautiful part of it. Even if it was quote unquote a wrong decision, even if it didn't go the right way, you took a job where if you would have done this, it would have done that. That job, you would have been farther. If you would have invested in Microsoft 30 years ago, that would have been here, but you didn't. You did this with your money. None of that matters, because where you said, if you believe it in all your heart, that is the best for you in the moment.
Yes.
Even if you can't see it, later you'll find that worked for your life. It didn't work. It didn't happen to you. It happened for you. So when you make those decisions, know that path, no matter where it goes, when it gets you to wherever it is that it ends up, that decision was part of getting you there. And so it was perfect. And to go confidence is a beautiful thing. That is a great piece of advice.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So is there any other things that you would like to share with our audience about you, about Ramos Law, about your life, anything like that?
Not that I can think of.
Okay. Well, you did a great job.
Thank
you
you
so much for sharing your time with me. I know you've been super busy while you've been here, but the fact that you're here to share your sweet spirit with us, it's been super fun for me.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Great experience.
Good. Well, enjoy it. We'll put it on the list, okay?
Thank you.
Done and done. Have a great day.
Thank you.